Hello boys and girls, welcome to Helen's class. Today we are going to talk about advanced tree planting problems. Again, bring along your pen and notebook and also your excellent mindset and good mood. Start today's math journey together with me. Okay, before we get started, let's have a simple revision first. Last lesson, we have learned the questions about tree planting problems. And who can tell me what do we need to do before we plant trees? Yes, we need to find our intervals. Very good. And the second step is we need to know which type of tree planting situation it is, right? For the first type, plant on two ends. There are 3 trees, but only 2 intervals. So that means the number of trees equals to the number of intervals plus 1. And for the second situation, there are 2 trees, but no trees are planted on 2 ends. 2 trees and 3 intervals. So the number of trees equals to intervals minus 1. Very good. And for this situation, if trees are planted on one end, the number of trees equals to the number of intervals. Do you still remember? And for the circular situation, it is the same with this situation. It is also the number of trees equals to the number of intervals. Okay, it seems that you still remember what we have learned last lesson. So let's continue with today's lesson. And we have already challenged the simple tree planting problems and we got a diamond. Okay, and we are going to challenge the advanced tree planting problems to get another diamond. So let's go for today's lesson. Here is the table of content. Today we are going to solve the problems about trees, distance, and intervals, and also to solve the interval problems in real life. Okay, here comes the first question. From the diagram, there are 100 trees in total. So how many intervals are there? Show your steps. Do anyone still remember what is the meaning of interval? Yes, it is talking about the gap between 2 trees, right? So how can we calculate the number of interval? Okay, we know that there are total 100 trees together, but this time it is different from the questions. In the last lesson, we are going to find the number of intervals. However, the method of dealing with this type of question is still the same. First, we need to find how we plant trees, right? So how we plant trees in this question? Yes, the trees are planted on both sides. So we need to find the relationship between the number of trees and the number of intervals. And if we need to find the number of trees, we need to use the number of intervals plus 1 or minus 1. Plus 1, very good. And now we need to find the number of intervals. So how can we change our calculation? We can change it into the number of intervals equals to the number of trees minus 1, because in this situation, the number of trees is more than the number of intervals. So we need to use the number of trees to minus 1. And what is your answer? It is very clearly 100 minus 1 equals to 99. Very good. So in this question, we can know that even the question is asking about intervals, but it is still the same as asking about trees, right? Let's move on to the next question. Okay, here. From the diagram, there are 100 trees in total. So how many intervals are there? This is also asking for intervals. But look at the diagram. Can we plant any trees here? No, because no trees can be planted on a castle, right? So which situation is it? Yes, it is either. So think about the relationship between the number of trees and the number of intervals. Is it the number of trees equals to the number of intervals? So what is the answer of this question? 100 trees. That is very good. Okay, move on. We need to highlight the keywords 100 trees and keywords intervals. And look at the diagram. Can we plant any trees here? No. Can we plant any trees here? Also no. And there are 100 trees in total. Which tree planting situation it is? How we plant trees? Yes, it is neither and. So what is the relationship between trees and intervals? Yes, if we need to find trees from our last lesson, we know that we need to use the number of intervals minus 1. But this time we are going to find intervals. So we use the number of intervals equals to the number of trees plus 1. So what is your answer? 100 plus 1 equals to 101. Perfect. Okay, and let's make a small conclusion here. We can find out that no matter the question is asking about trees or asking about intervals, the only thing we need to find out is how to plant trees, and we need to know the relationship between trees and intervals so we can solve our question. Okay, and we can move on to the next question. The distance between the sun building and the moon building is 50 meters. Eddie needs to plant trees every 5 meters between the two buildings. So how many trees can be planted? Do anyone still remember what Helen said before? What do you need to do before plant trees? Yes, you need to get the interval. So how can you get your interval? You need to use 50 divided by 5, and the answer is 10. Very good. This is talking about our intervals, right? Yes, we need to find how we plant trees. Can we find words like either, neither, both, and in the question? No. So how can we know how we plant trees? We can find some key sentences in the question. Let's read the question again together. Eddie needs to plant trees every 5 meters between the two buildings. So let's draw a diagram together. Here is a road and here is a building, and this is a building here. Okay, and some trees are planted here, right? But can we plant any trees here? Oh, Eddie planted a tree here. Can he? No. Why? Because he can't plant a tree on the top of the building. So which type of tree planting question it belongs to? Yes, it belongs to neither and. So what is the relationship between trees and intervals? Who is larger? Yes, interval is larger, and the question is asking about trees, right? So we can know that the number of trees is 10 minus 1 equals to 9, right? And Helen wants to remind you that when we are facing this kind of questions, we need to first get our intervals, and second, we need to know how to plant trees. And also the most important, you need to write down your steps, your units, and your answer. Yes, you need to write down your answer here. Even the question didn't tell us either, neither, both. It didn't tell us how to plant trees, but we can find it on our own, right? Okay, so let's go to the next question and explore more. Let us read the question together first. Phil wants to plant some pine trees on the road leading to the gate of Magic Castle. Oh, there is a Magic Castle here. And the road is 40 meters. And the interval between two trees is 5 meters. So how many trees can she plant? What is the first step before we do this type of question? Yes, we need to get our intervals. So how can we calculate our intervals? How can we calculate? We can use 40 divided by 5 and equals to 8. Very good. That means we have 8 intervals in this question. And how about the second step? What we need to do? Yes, we need to think about how we plant trees. But can we know how we plant trees in the question? Did the question directly tell us either, neither, or both? No, so let's read the question together again and to find some key sentences. It says, Phil wants to plant some pine trees on the road leading to the gates of Magic Castle. Oh, I think I know the answer. Let's draw a picture together and help us to think it. Here is a road and here is a Magic Castle. So maybe some trees are planted here, some trees are planted here, some trees are planted here, right? And can I plant a tree here in front of the gate? No, because if I plant a tree here, so the road is blocked. No one can pass through the road, okay? So no trees can be planted here. Then which type of question it is? Yes, it is talking about we can plant trees on either side. So what is the relationship between the number of trees and the number of intervals? They are equal. Very good. So how many trees are there? How many trees can she plant? 8 trees. That is our answer, 8 trees. After that, we always need to write down our answer at the end of our question to get full mark. Okay, then let's have a revision again. First, we need to get our intervals, and second step, we need to know how we plant trees. And even if the question didn't tell us how to plant trees, we can find from the key sentences from the question, okay? You can't forget your steps, your units, and your answer for the word problems. Okay, and let's move on to the next one. Okay, here comes to the magic forest. To recover the ecosystem of the magic forest, Eddie plants 28 trees along one side of a road. It is known that the length of interval between 2 trees is 3 meters. So what does this mean? There are 2 trees. And the interval between them is 3 meters, right? So let's continue to see our question. If the trees are planted from the first end to another end, how long will the road be? This time the question is asking about the road. So let's draw a diagram. Let's draw out our road. And we have known that the question is talking about from the first end to another end. So which situation is it? It means planting on both ends, so we can put 2 trees here, right? And then maybe there are some other trees in the middle. And also from the question, we know that this is 3 meters, 3 meters, and 3 meters per tree. If we want to calculate the total length of the road, is it we need to calculate how many 3 meters, how many intervals are there. Remember, this 3 meters is talking about the interval. But did the question tell us the number of intervals? No. But Helen reminds you a method to do this. We have already know the number of trees, right? Do you know the relationship between trees and intervals? Yes. Let's think about it. We know that it is the condition of planting trees on both ends. So the number of trees is larger or smaller than the number of intervals? Yes, it's larger. So we have 28 trees here. So how many intervals? We can use the number of trees minus 1 equals to the number of intervals. We can know there are 27 3 meters, right? So how long will the road be? The length is 27 times 3 equals to, calculate it on yourself, 81. Very good. So we can conclude that if we need to find the total length of the road, we also need to find the number of intervals first. And then we use the number of intervals to multiply the length of the interval to get the total length of the road. This is how we can deal with this kind of question. Remember this? And don't forget to put down your answer at the end. It is very important. Okay, so let's move on. We know Eddie plants 28 trees along a side of the road again, and the length of the interval between two trees is 3 meters. If no tree is planted on both ends, so how long will the road be? What is this question asking about? Yes, it is asking about the length of the road. So how can we do it? For our first step, we need to find our interval. Remember, no matter what the question is asking, we always need to find our interval first. Interval is always very important. So we need to get our interval first. So how can we know? How can we find the number of interval in the question? Did the question directly tell us? No. But what we know? We know there are 28 trees. We know the number of trees. And also we know how to find the relationship between the number of trees and the number of intervals, right? So we can draw a diagram to help us to think. There is a road and the question said no tree is planted on both ends. That means no trees, right? And some trees in the middle. Okay, and there are 28 trees. Okay, so what is the relationship? Interval is more than trees by 1, right? So we know that there are 28 trees. So how many intervals? 28 plus 1. 29 intervals. And how can we calculate the length of our road? What is our second step? Yes, we can use the number of intervals times what? Times the length of one interval. Very good. So the answer is 87. Yes. And how about the unit? Meter. Remember it? And for the last step, we need to write down our answer here. Okay, and I want to remind this to you again. Total length of the road equals to the length of one interval times the number of intervals. That means how many intervals are there in a road? Okay, you need to find that. Again, Eddie plants 28 trees and the length of interval between two trees is 3 meters. So if trees are planted on either end, how long will the road be? This question is also asking about how long. And it is similar with the previous question. You can think it on your own. Pause me and think it on your own. Okay, and I will go on to show you how to do this question. First, answer me a question. What is the first step before we find the length of the road? What we need to find first? Yes, we need to find the number of interval. But did the question tell us the number of interval? No, the question tell us what? Tell us there are 28 trees. Do you know the relationship between trees and intervals? Yes. How can you find it? You can use a diagram and find how we plant trees. So it says trees are planted on either end. That means if I don't plant a tree here, and I plant a tree here, I plant a tree here, and also I need to plant a tree here. It's either end, right? So what is the relationship between the number of trees and the number of intervals? Yes, they are equal. So how many intervals are there in these questions? 28 intervals. And how can we calculate the length of the road? We can use the number of interval times the length of one interval, which equals to 84, and the unit is meter. Don't forget it. And lastly, we need to write our answer here to get full mark of your word question. So let's make our conclusion again. What do you need to find if you need to find the total length of the road? First, you need to find intervals. How can you find intervals? There are no intervals in the question, so what do you find? You find trees, and you use trees to find intervals. And after finding the number of intervals, you can use the number of intervals times the length of interval to get the total length. Okay, so you need to remember this. Let's continue with this. A road that is 42 meters long and is planted with trees on one side. Trees are planted on both ends. There are 7 trees in total, and the length of interval between trees is equal. Find the length of interval between 2 trees. What is the question asking about? Yes, the question is asking about the length of interval. That means we need to find, this is an interval, right? We need to find the length between this one. We need to find this. What do we need to find first? Can you guess? Yes, we always need to find the number of intervals first. So how can we find the number of intervals? Can we find it from the question directly? No, so we find what? We find the number of trees. There are 7 trees in total. So let's draw a picture together. There are 7 trees and planted on both ends. So I plant on both ends first. And there are 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. There are 7 trees. So how many intervals can you count? 6 intervals. So we can know that the number of interval is 7 minus 1 equals to 6. And how can we find the length of one interval then? Can I use 42 times 6? Am I correct? No. Why? I'm wrong. Yes, because 42 meters is talking about the total length of the road. So we need to use 42 divide or multiply divided by 6 and equals to 7. So what is the unit here? Meter. Don't forget your unit. And write down your answer lastly. Okay, then we have finished the question and get full marks here. In this question, we are talking about the length of interval, but the calculation process is still the same. First, we need to find the interval, and then we need to find how we plant trees. We need to use trees to think about our intervals. Now you know how to deal with the questions that no matter they are asking about the length of one interval, the total length of road, or just asking about the number of intervals. You all know how to calculate. That is excellent. Let's move on and look at some more question type in our daily life. Other than planting trees, Helen now wants to cut some trees because I planted too much trees. I want to cut them all down. And so let's see, how can I cut the trees? When I cut a log into 5 pieces, can you help me draw and count and tell me how many times do we need to cut? First, can you guess it for me? You think how many times I need to cut? Maybe you think it is 5 or you think it is 4. So let's cut it together. If I cut 1 time, so how many pieces can I get? 2. If I cut 1 time, that means I can get 2 pieces. So if I cut 2 times, how many pieces can I get? 3 pieces. If I cut 3 times, how many pieces can I get? 4 pieces. If I cut 4 times, how many pieces can I get? 5 pieces. So do you know the answer now? Yes, we need to cut 4 times. But don't stop here. Let's observe the relationship between the number of cuts and the number of pieces. What can you find out? Which one is smaller? Yes, the number of cuts is smaller and the number of pieces is more. So what is the relationship? If I need to get 10 pieces, so how many cuts do I need to cut? I need to cut 9 cuts to get 10 pieces. Okay, now if I need to cut 20 pieces, so how many cuts do I need to cut? I need to cut 19 cuts. So we can know that the number of cuts is less than the number of pieces by 1. And if we need to find the number of cuts, we just need to use the number of pieces minus 1 to get the number of cuts. And this is also another type of question about intervals. Okay, and let's go to the next one. Eddie lives on the first floor, while Doctor lives on 10th floor. So how many flights of stairs does Eddie need to climb if he wants to visit Doctor's home? This time the question is talking about climbing stairs. So can you guess an answer for me first? Many of you guessed 10. So let's check the answer by drawing a diagram. Let's draw a diagram here. This is first floor and second floor, third floor. So let's check if Eddie goes from the first floor to the second floor. How many flights of stairs? 1 flight. And if from second floor to the third floor, 2 flights of stairs. So we can write it down here. From the first floor to the third floor, Eddie goes up to 2 flights of stairs, right? And if he continue to go to the 4th floor, there are 3 flights of stairs. And if he continue to the 5th floor, how many flights of stairs? 4 flights of stairs. Let's write it down. Do I still have any space for me to continue drawing? Draw to the 10th floor? No more space, and it is too time consuming. So how can I do? We need to find the relationship between the number of stairs and the number of floor. So let's see. Which one is less? Which one is less? Yes, the number of floor is less than the number of stairs. By how many? By 1. So we can know that if we need to calculate the number of stairs, we need to use the number of floor minus 1. Okay, so now Eddie needs to go from the first floor to the 10th floor. How many flights of stairs? Which answer do you think? Yes, the correct answer should be 9, because we need to use 10th floor, that is the number of floor, minus 1 equals to 9, that is the number of stairs. Okay, so you need to remember this relationship. Okay, now if Helen wants to go from the 2nd floor to the 5th floor, so how many floors do I need to climb? What do you think? If I need to climb from the 2nd floor to the 5th floor, how many flights of stairs do I need to go through? Many of you think it is 4. So let's check if it is really 4. This is 2nd floor, 3rd floor, 4th floor, and 5th floor. So how many flights of stairs? 1, 2, 3. So I only need to climb 3 flights of stairs, but not 4. Can I still use 5 minus 1 if I am not starting from the 1st floor? No, we can find that if I am starting from the 2nd floor, the number of stairs will become 3. It doesn't equal to 4, right? So if we are not starting from the 1st floor, we need to use the larger number. That is 5 minus the smaller number, that is 2. That is 5 minus 2 equals to 3. So remember this, if we are not starting from the 1st floor, we need to use the larger number minus the smaller number to get the number of stairs. Okay, so I assume that you have already understand this, and we are going to continue to the next question. Eddie decides to make a present for Phil using the logs brought from the magic forest, and he spends 6 minutes cutting a log into 3 pieces. So how much time does he spend if he cuts the log into 6 pieces? What is your answer? Many of you think it is 12 minutes. So let's check with your answer. If we draw a log here and I need to cut into 3 pieces, so how many cut do I need to cut? Yeah, I need to cut 1, 2. But how many minutes? Is this like 2, 2, 2? I divide 6 minutes into 3 twos? No. You think, where does your time goes to? Where you use your time on? You use your time on cutting the log, right? So you cannot divide 6 by 3. This is incorrect. You should divide 6 by 2 because there are only 2 cuts. So this will be 3 and this will be 3. So we need to calculate when we have 1 cut. We need to use how much time? 6 divided by 2 and equals to 3 minutes for 1 cut. And if I need to cut the log into 6 pieces, so how many cuts do I need to cut? 5. 6 minus 1 equals to 5, right? For 5 cuts. And I need to cut the log into 6 pieces. So how much cut do I need? I need 6 minus 1 equals to 5 cuts, right? And I have 5 cuts, 3 minutes for 1 cut. So how much time do I need to cut my log into 6 pieces? That means my time is 3 times 5 and equals to 15 minutes. Very good, and don't forget your answer. You must write down your answer here. Okay, so we finish with this question and go to the next one. Phil lives on the 6th floor. Eddie needs to walk 48 steps from the 1st floor to the 4th floor. If the number of steps are the same for every floor, then there are how many steps for each floor? Before we get started, I want you to clarify one thing. Let's see. What is this? We call the whole thing of this stairs. How about one block of stairs? We call one of this a step. Okay? Are you clear with this? So remember this and let's go back to the question where we need to find the number of steps for each floor. So before we find it, what do we need to do first? Is it we need to find how many stairs do we need to climb from the 1st floor to the 4th floor? So how many stairs? Remember the formula? Remember the conclusion that I have told you from the last question? Yes, we need to use 4 minus 1 equals to 3 stairs. Okay, and let's check it again by a diagram. 1, 2, 3, 4. So how many stairs? 1, 2, 3. Okay, we are correct. The answer is 3. So we know we need to climb 3 stairs, and in total, Eddie needs to walk 48 steps. So how many steps are there for each floor? How can we do this? We need to divide 48 into 3 stairs, right? Divide the total into separate. Okay, so what is our answer? Our answer is 16. So this will be 16. There are another question below. Eddie needs to climb how many steps if he needs to go to Phil's home? So where does Phil live? Yes, on 6th floor. We still remember this. So what we need to find first? we need to find the number of stairs from the first floor to the 6th floor. Okay, so how can we find it? We use 6 minus 1 equals to 5. That is 5 stairs. So in total, how many steps does he need to climb? If he needs to go to 6th floor, we already know that we climb 1 flight of stairs needs 16 steps. We need to climb 5 flights of stairs. How can we do this? We need to use 16 times 5. So we can get the number of steps, right? That is, what is the answer? 80. Very good. So the final answer is 80 steps. We need to write our answer here, okay? So today we have learned many different kinds of interval problems. You are very good, and let's move on to our final conclusion. Other than the basic type of tree planting problems, we also know how to calculate intervals, the number of intervals, and the length of intervals, right? And also, we learn how to calculate some more deep relationship between the trees and the intervals. And for the third thing we learned is if we want to calculate the total length of something, of a road, we can use the number of interval times the length of interval, right? Do you still remember? And for the fourth thing, if we need to calculate the length of the interval, we can use the total length divided by the number of interval to get the length of interval. And also we have discussed many practical problems such as climbing stairs, cutting logs, and hitting bells. These are also the interval question in our daily lives. And for this type of question, we can always solve them by drawing a diagram. Okay, so today is the end of Helen's lesson. Thank you for your listening and see you next time.
拜拜，时间过得太快，又要说拜拜。书包书包背起来，和你说拜拜。你是我的好朋友，和你说拜拜。拜拜，时间过得太快，又要说拜拜。书包书包背起来，和你说拜拜。你是我的好朋友，和你说拜拜。拜拜，时间过得太快，又要说拜拜。小猴皮皮再见，和你说拜拜，下次我们再来，一起乐开怀。拜拜拜拜拜。
Okay, bye.